part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Welcome back, everybody, to Podcast 616, the official podcast of Earth 616. I'm your host, Damon Royster, and today, you're welcome, everybody. It begins our coverage of Captain America, and of course, we're starting with Captain America 1, Captain America, the First Avenger, a.k.a. a non-musical musical. I'll explain that more as we go on. This movie gave me very musical vibes. Guys, we're so lucky. I'm being joined by two captains in their own right. My first guest is a known filmmaker, actor, and spokesperson for a fishing gear company, I believe.
Yeah, you can say that.
I will say that. And also...
No, that's true.
I've never said this to his face, but honestly, one of the best beards I've ever seen in my life.
Thank you.
I've lived in two major U.S. cities, so...
It's under contract, so this beard makes more money than a lot of beards.
And that voice you're hearing, it's Derek Cox, everybody. Derek, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Damon.
Oh,
this is my first podcast I've ever been on, so this will be great.
What
I saved it for you. Saved it for you. Yeah.
Yeah. My gosh. You have all that equipment and you've never done a podcast?
No. This is for voiceover recording. So,
okay.
Sorry.
She's working.
Thank you.
I'm honored to have you. This is your first podcast. You should do more. My other guest, captain of improv, captain of acting, captain of copying everything that I do in my life. Just waiting for him to start his own podcast. So please welcome actor, improviser, Miles Potter.
Hello. Actually, like we talked about last time, this is my podcast now. This is my podcast. So I'd like to welcome everyone. We're going to talk about a great film today.
No. That's where you're wrong, Miles. Okay. This is not a great film.
Okay.
Thank you, Miles. Also, it should be noted, Miles is doing this from his car. The audacity. The audacity to be on time, but to be in your car. Man.
Yeah.
It looks good in there. It's a great interior.
Thank you. This is a relatively new car. It's a 2021 Honda Civic. Silver. Beautiful. Just got it detailed. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
All right. Enough about this car. Jesus Christ. Well, we're here to talk about Captain America, First Avenger. Let's go to Derek Cox. How did you like this movie? And also, remind me, are you a Marvel fan in the first place?
Yes, I am a Marvel fan in the first place. I have seen everything except for the Werewolf by Night, which just came out yesterday. So it's okay that I haven't seen it yet. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I liked this film a lot more than I thought I would. When it first came out, I didn't see it because I was like, whatever, Captain America. And then going back and watching it all in one piece, I was like, oh, all right, this is better than I thought it would be. I wasn't expecting Tommy Lee Jones, Stanley Tucci, like all of that. So, there's some good, I liked it.
Yeah. I always forget that Jones and Tucci are in this.
Jenna Coleman's in it
from Doctor Who. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, all right.
It's such a small part, but I always feel bad when like British actors that are very famous in the UK come to America and they do tiny part, like when Catherine Tate was on The Office.
Oh yeah.
It's like, y'all don't even know.
Yeah.
Miles Potter, you, when I asked you to do this, you said you identified with Steve Rogers, which is crazy because you're Peter Parker, but
Great. Great. Sure.
Why do you identify with Steve Rogers and how did you enjoy his origin story?
I think I identify as pretty naive and pure-hearted. So I think Steve, at least early in the Marvel series, is a lot of that. And I think that's a lot of protagonists in comics and all that. So I identify with him, all-American boy. That's how I look, or I've been told that I look. So I identify with his naivete, pure heart, and homeboy or hometown boy looks.
Yeah, you've got the homeboy looks. Incredible. All American boy, I guess. You just look like you're from Michigan, but that's just from me.
Yeah.
Let's start this movie. Well, maybe I should say my thing. So, like, Captain America, I was telling Derek before we recorded that there's a lot of retroactive goodwill that I felt when watching this because, you know, seeing where Endgame went and the journey of, Steve Rogers and everything, going back to the beginning was so fun to reminisce about, I was watching, I was like, man, they don't even know where they're going to go with all this. But the actual movie itself, I don't know. It feels like it's just here to set up Avengers 1. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Just a lot of look at this blue box. Is going to be important later. But anyway, we start in the ice. Start with the shield, and then we cut to Norway. Miles Potter, how did you take in this kind of Indiana Jones intro, Norway 1942?
Remind me briefly. Sorry.
I'm so furious. So we start with these people in the Arctic tundra, and they're like, we found something, and we see the shield frozen. But then we cut to 1942 Norway, where the Red Skull shows up and basically steals the Tesseract from these Norwegian people.
Yeah. I'm a fan of this movie. I like origin stories, and most origin stories. I feel like if you are pure to the character and pure to the story, I'm a fan. If you try and do something weird or change the character, I'm not about it. So, I mean, I was on board with this movie from the start. I feel like I don't have enough specifics to say, but I think it's great. I'm bought in immediately. We see the shield, you give me what I want immediately. Great. Wherever we go, sure. Set up the good guy. Where's he at? Bad guy. Boom. Let's move.
Beautiful. Miles says, don't give me color photographs. Black and white is what I need. One's good, one's bad. And you're going to get that here. Derek Cox.
Yeah.
How often are you sitting in your home thinking, man, I just really want to go to war?
Oh, almost never. I think that's the one thing about Steve Rogers that I'm like, man, why does this guy want to go fight? Like, we see him get in a fight and he just sits there and takes it, like doesn't even try to dodge the punches. I'm like, this guy just wants to get beat up. And like, I understand, like, all right, like his family's gone or whatever. He's going to do this thing. But like, yeah, we don't get a lot of a reason other than that he just wants to go to war. Like everybody else is doing it, he might as well do it too,
Yeah. I mean, we get the infamous I could do this all day several times. It's his catchphrase. And that's something I forgot. Captain America, or especially Steve Rogers, he's like trying to kind of be funny. Like he has so many quips for everything. He's a quippy guy, and I don't know. He reminds me of the kid in an improv class who's like, "Oh, I came here to be funny. Like I'm going to tell my jokes now. I have my stockpile jokes."
Chris Evans is charming enough that he gets a genuine laugh from me whenever he sets up his jokes. A lot of the times, though, especially with, and I don't want to jump ahead too far. I don't know how far we want to get, but when they've got him in the chamber or whatever, and they're turning him into Captain America with the super soldier serum. This is a big leap ahead. But when he says it's probably too late to go to the bathroom, right? I was on a plane the first time that I watched this all the way through, and I laughed out loud on the plane, and I was like, I shouldn't have done that. Like, I don't think it warranted that, but Chris Evans' delivery was just so earnest. And I think that's what the nice thing about Captain America is, how earnest he always is.
Yeah. And I think that earnestness, that's why I'm sensing musical moment. I feel like, like this whole opening moment of him like wanting to go to war, but keeps getting rejected and goes on a date and is just not interested in that woman. I wonder why. I have theories, but it just feels like this is an intro to a musical, like never gonna work out. That would be my song. Listeners, you can't see it, but my guests are cheering for me because they support my musical moments, and thank you so much. Miles, don't clap. Don't patronize me. Miles Potter, tell me about Bucky Barnes. Who is he, and why should we care?
Okay,
give me your report right now.
Sure. Bucky Barnes was Captain America's first sidekick. Like many superheroes, they have a sidekick, and it's to get the reader, the child reading, on board with the hero. So Bucky Barnes is our sidekick. He's Captain America's friend growing up. We see later he has kind of a dark past that we get into, but he is same as Steve, good guy in the army. So they join the army together. They've been friends for their entire life. Bucky, then, I guess I won't go ahead of myself, but they grew up together. Bucky was always like the bigger guy. He was tough. He would defend Steve when he would get in a fight, and Steve was always getting in fights. And then, so then after he becomes Captain America, they kind of switch roles because Steve is now the bigger tough guy. So that's a cool switch in their relationship.
Yeah, truly. Bucky Barnes played here by Sebastian Stan. I'm just going to say this right now. This is the last time I ever found Bucky Barnes attractive. More on that. I think this is it. After this, not here for it, but more on that. Yeah. More on that later. But yeah, so it's all just set up for the inevitable. I feel like we're just wasting time till Tucci gets involved. Derek Cox, what is your relationship with Stanley Tucci like?
Well, he's one of those guys that you see around town, and you're like, yeah, I know that guy. I like that guy. But then you don't get the, like, I feel like you don't get the substance with him since he's such a character actor. Like, you see him in a bunch of tiny little roles, but you don't get to spend enough time with him to really get to know him that well. But because of that, I think you're always like, yeah, I like that guy, but you can't really place it,
Yeah. He's never like front of mind, but as soon as you see him, it's like, oh,
yeah, glad he's here, but yeah, wasn't expecting him.
Yeah, and that's his secret power. You're never expecting him, but you're always grateful for the Tooch.
Oh yeah. Can we call him that?
I mean, I would love to call him the Tooch.
You can.
Okay.
Miles, do you not appreciate the Tooch?
I don't feel like I have the depth of relationship with him to call him the Tooch.
Wow.
But
this man pulled up in his car and said, I don't care about Stanley Tucci.
I guess I can't say that. I do care about
It sounds like
Tucci.
He has respect for him.
Yeah. No, I respect Stanley Tucci. And I think there's a list with a handful of actors like him where you're like, I know his name when I see him, but I will never think of him until I see him. And you see him in a bunch of stuff. You're like, oh yeah, Stanley Tucci. No one else on that list is coming to mind right now. But
Paul Giamatti.
Paul Giamatti. Where you're like, I know his name, but I don't think about him until I see him.
Wow.
But the respect is there.
Sounds like a feud to me. So Stanley Tucci comes in. My issue with the Tooch in this movie is not with him, but with this character. It's so similar to the character Yensing, I want to say, from Iron Man 1. The guy who was in the cave with Tony Stark, who helped him build the first Iron Man suit. It just seems such a like one-to-one of like, hey, this older person in glasses sees value in this younger main character. And what is it? Derek Cox, what, like...
That's part of the hero's journey. I think if you're making the mentor character, which I think makes sense in both of these films. I mean, at a certain point when you're making these origin films, it all kind of boils down to the hero's journey, and you're like, okay, well, I could see these tropes over and over and over again. But I think it's, when you do it in like interesting ways is when it feels fresh. And then the reason that this is feeling stale for you, I think, is that it's like by the book.
Yeah.
Kind of a setup.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's why I'm just kind of like, First Avenger. It's very by the book, including our love interest, Miles Potter. Who is Peggy Carter?
Peggy Carter. Doesn't she work for
Insane. Wow. Are you kidding me?
You didn't ask me this question at the top. I am a DC fan, not a Marvel fan.
We don't talk about that. We don't talk about that on this podcast.
So some of these characters have different intricacies that I do not know. But she works for the government and is kind of Steve's liaison through his military intelligence life. So she's kind of leading him through the super soldier program and all that. and she's always kind of watching him as he's training with the other people. So at first, I feel like there isn't a love interest; it's just kind of like a business relationship. Mm-hmm. And then once he's like chosen for that, and he changes and gets all those abs and shit, there's a love interest there that blossoms throughout the films. But yeah, she is originally just his like liaison for the super soldier program.
Yes.
I think that you see her buy into Steve's earnestness early on, though. Yeah. I think that that's ultimately what plants that seed, that love interest seed, is little Steve, and then big Steve does it for her.
Yeah. And again, maybe I'm just not an earnest person, or maybe I just don't flock to earnestness. I'm just like, I need a little bit of snark. I need some sarcasm. Like, we're in a goofy world. There's a man with a red skull who calls himself the Red Skull coming to get us. There's an offshoot science team from the Nazis called Hydra that really doubled down on the imagery. And I just am like, can someone make fun of this? Because it's so goofy. Yeah. And we're just shooting lasers at each other. And the Peggy Steve relationship, I kind of find boring because they're just noble people who only want to associate with other noble people. As like, do they salute at night when they get together? I don't know. It's just not for me. It's not for me. And I'm sorry to any Peggy Carter stans. I know she had her own TV show, but
I do think that if we got that sex scene though, the Peggy Steve sex scene, I think we would get the salute moment in there. So I think that you're on the right path.
Yeah,
for sure.
Derek, let me know. Would it just be salutes, or would they salute after they had finished?
I think you salute before you start, and then another one after you've both finished.
Yeah, because then you're
Captain makes sure no man or woman left behind.
Yes. So.
Yeah.
Permission to come aboard, Peggy. Permission granted.
I don't know that would have humanized them. I don't think that scene would have humanized them at all for us.
No, I don't think.
That's why they cut it from the film.
Yeah. It was more of the same.
Yeah.
I think my biggest issue with this movie is the scene. I mean, we're jumping ahead a lot, but it's the dumbest scene where Natalie Dormer, is that her name? The blonde woman?
Oh, yeah.
She is hot to trot for Steve Rogers, and she is like, I'm going to kiss this fucker no matter what. For some reason, like, you're a hero. I have to kiss you. And then Peggy Carter walks in. It's just, we're trying so hard to like make Steve a good guy, fucking good guy. And I just use air quotes, listeners. And then walks in on Peggy, and she's like, how dare you look at another woman when you just looked at me in a dress? And I don't know. It just caused so Natalie Dormer kisses Captain Rogers, and he's all embarrassed because Peggy saw. I don't know. I hate it. I'm sorry. I hate it.
I think the reason we needed this movie, I think, is he's the leader of the Avengers. We need his movie. He's got to kind of kick us off. And we need, I think, unfortunately, a lot of this movie is Steve being very one note. He's a good guy. We need this movie. I think Marvel does a good job, I think, of like movies are pawns. Instead of a movies being the big thing, like, all right, we need this movie to be here so we can then do this. Obviously, we care about the movie and we want to make it great, but we need Steve in place. We need Steve to be this. And honestly, like after seeing this movie, I thought that Steve was going to be boring and one note the entire time. And I was happy that he grew and became not that. I think they've done a great job with all their characters in that sense. But I think this movie, I love because I love an origin story, but I think it needed to be exactly what it was. Let's set up Steve, let's make Steve, and then we'll put him in all these other situations surrounded by these hugely flawed people, and that will give us some conflict in some interesting situations.
You said Steve so many times. And I like that. I like when you said that Marvel treats its movie.
I liked when you said Steve.
No, you said
when
Steve. I really liked when you said Steve.
No, when you said that the movies are like pawns, which means that you think Marvel is like chess, which is the hardest game to play.
Am I supposed to respond to that?
I just think you're saying Marvel's a little more complex than other comic book film industries.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess you can put me on record right now that right now Marvel is chess and DC is checkers. They're not doing as well.
You are on record because we are recording right now.
I'm a DC fan. I wish they would figure it out, but I've told you this before, off the record. Marvel is killing it. They're doing a great job. So on the record,
I feel good.
DC's doing okay with animations right now, but not with live action films.
Animation and games, they are killing.
Now that we got that settled, let's go into Derek Cox.
Yeah.
Who is the Red Skull? And also, I really missed this on this watch. What is his plan? What is he doing?
Oh, yeah. So the Red Skull is as beautifully portrayed by Hugo Weaving. Just kind of like this Nazi soldier scientist guy who's really into the occult, and which is kind of weird to me, putting Norse mythology into like occult, because that's what we see him like be the most into in this. But you know, he decides that he has to be this superior man, and so he takes Dr. Erskine's like, what do they call it? The super
soldier serum.
Super soldier serum.
Mm-hmm.
He takes it before it's ready, which causes all of his skin to go red, and takes off his nose for some reason. But
noses are not safe.
Yeah, noses are not safe from the super soldier serum. And his plan, as far as I can tell, is to destroy his enemies, but it seems like the whole world is his enemies. Just anybody, because he's just throwing bombs everywhere. And they say several times in the movie that his enemies are everywhere or everyone, and you're like, all right, I think this dude just wants to blow up the world.
He's coming for all of our noses.
Yeah, but Hugo Weaving is so good that I don't mind that his plan is just to bomb a bunch of places. I'm like, all right, I buy it. This dude looks like, maybe the super soldier serum, since it wasn't quite ready yet, is just messing with his head, and he doesn't have a clear idea of what he's doing.
Truly. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big Captain America comic book fan, but I do know that Red Skull is like his main, like that's his Joker, to his Batman, like that's his main villain. Yeah. And I don't know. I don't know if I agree that we should have started with Red Skull. I wish there was like a less iconic villain for an origin story, because like the origin story takes most of the focus, like how does he become Captain America, that really anything else kind of like falls to the wayside.
Yeah. I think it would have been weird. I feel like for this first movie, the enemy could have just been the Nazis and Hitler. I think that would be.
What about them?
Yeah. I think it's where I guess I don't want to say it's worth saying, but it's worth saying that Red Skull, also the Hydra, they're not a fan of the Nazis, so we have that in common.
Insane.
Don't know who to root for.
Yeah, I won't speak to you guys. I have that in common with Red Skull and Hydra.
Yeah, don't toot your own horn.
Where was I going? I don't know, but I lost it.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to hopefully Miles is going to regain that thought. When we get back, we're going to actually talk about, we haven't even talked about the transformation that happens and them pecs. We're going to talk about more Captain America, and we're going to have some more fun on Podcast 616. We're back, baby, and we'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Sam Post, owner of Phenomenal CBD store and PhenomenalCBD.com. That's like phenomenal, CBD.com. Tune in where we talk with experts about how the amazing hemp plant can make a difference for people's health, and well-being from the Press Play Podcast Network.
Welcome, everyone, to Podcast 616, the official podcast of Earth 616. I am your host, Damon Royster, and I am inviting you to listen and subscribe to this Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. On Podcast 616, we gather some of today's greatest comedians, writers, and actors to dive deep into all things Marvel, like comic book history and lore, all the interconnected superhero storylines, and of course, who's hot and who's not in the MCU. Honestly, why aren't you listening right now? You have the power to listen to Podcast 616. And as we always say, with great power comes even greater responsibility. Listen and subscribe to Podcast 616 wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. Here's how Books with Brooks works. We read one book a month, and then we talk about it. Classics like Stephen King's The Shining, debut novels like We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lang, and tons of other compelling, life-changing stories, one book and 1 month at a time. So come read along with us, and then listen in.
And we're back. Okay, so Captain America goes in the little machine, grows really big and strong. There's a lovely moment where Peggy touches his man titties.
It comes out fully oiled.
Fully oiled.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
the
like
serum's not quite done yet. You come out oiled.
maybe it's also like a car wash where like they put that into you, but they also give you a nice little
Oh yeah,
clean.
just like a nice wax before you're out. Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe he's just naturally waxy. That's what happens when you get all the super strength. Wonderful action sequence where he tries to go after the man who killed the Tooch. The Tooch is down for the count. That man used cyanide, tooth, whatever. I'm just trying to skip ahead to go to what happens next. They can't do this again. They only have one super soldier, and that's not enough for Tommy Lee Jones. He wants all the men. So, Derek, what does Captain America? What did they do with Captain America now?
Well, he gets relegated to USO duty, which I feel like they really pump him up, and then you see him, on stage selling bonds, and you're like, what's going on here? This is a part of the movie that I did not remember before watching it again for this podcast, and I was like, wait, this is what Captain America does? And it's like, it makes sense if you're in the 40s. Like, yeah, we'll put this guy. Have him do these shows, and he gets good at it is the thing, he's say what you want about Captain America, but they put in a tough situation doing these USO shows. He gets his script memorized. He gets he punches out Hitler over 200 times. So say what you want about the man, but that's more than I've done.
That's more than anyone's done.
Yeah. And anytime that he's with an American audience, in America, he does well. But when he goes overseas, the soldiers have no respect for this Captain America song and dance.
Yeah. Something gets lost in translation.
Yeah.
And again, this is the musical moment of the movie. Like it's full pageantry. Watching this, because in current MCU, there's this like running bit of Rogers the Musical that's going around.
Yeah.
And like when seeing this, I'm like, oh, well, this makes sense. Why someone was like, oh yeah, let's make Steve Rogers the Musical. Also, just quick temperature check. Everybody watching She-Hulk?
Oh yeah.
Not yet. I'm behind.
What a surprise, Miles. There's a moment where there was this conversation about like when did Steve Rogers lose his virginity, and I think we see.
Yes.
There's like a moment. Yeah, there's a moment where he says hi to some blonde woman, and I think that's the lady.
Yeah, he comes down the stairs, and then there's a flash bulb, and then they say hi, and then we cut away. It's like a 3-second scene. But I said the same thing when I was watching it. I was like, I think that's who they're talking about.
Yeah. Marvel, they watch their movies, and I like that. I like that about them.
Yeah.
Well, there's only one thing that could make Captain America leave the lights and stage, and that's the true love of his life, Bucky Barnes, being in danger. So he learns that Bucky's in danger. He's like, I'm going to be a big damn hero. Steals a showgirl's prop helmet, which I think is dangerous. Are those?
Yeah, I don't know if it works. I don't know if that could possibly work. I mean, maybe it's a real helmet that they painted, but that confused me.
Yeah, I was like, I feel like you're gonna get shot in the head for sure now. So there's a big damn hero moment. He releases all the future Howling Commando men, and I honestly like this shot where it's like him versus the Red Skull, and they're on like that bridge, and there's like all this shit exploding. And I think this is where I actually get the reveal that he is in fact a Red Skull. Mm-hmm. Brilliant name. I don't know how he came up with it. And
as
then
we learned from She-Hulk, sometimes people just give you these names. So
true.
Yeah,
very true. It's like, a Red Skull. Oh, God, yeah, that's my terrible German accent. Wait, let me just see. Is this where we get, if they cut off the one head, two more will?
We get that with the cyanide tooth.
The cyanide tooth. Okay.
We get it again when Tommy Lee Jones is fighting. So later in the film. We get it earlier in the film and later in the film, but not here.
Thank you, Derek. And thus begins just a big old like montage. So, everyone's like, oh, Captain America's dead. We lost all those soldiers. And he just saunters in with like, 1,000 men or whatever?
Yeah.
Hundreds of men? Who knows? He brings all of the men. Call Captain America Khalees because he brings the boys to the yard. Derek liked it. Miles, you okay?
I'm fine. I'm just disapproving of you.
Yeah, we're going to compare Captain America to Khalees because that's what we do on this podcast.
We might get another Hydra two-head moment there. I'm not positive about it now. Someone will have to fact check that.
There's one coming up, and I want to talk about it when we get there.
Okay.
But let's talk about the death of Bucky Barnes. Now, again, yeah, air quotes. Not a big comic fan, but I believe the original Bucky Barnes is like a little kid in the comics, which, because in the comics, he's just like a little kid with like a those like domino masks that Robin from Batman wears.
Yeah.
But the same shit happens where he gets killed and then he gets turned into the Winter Soldier, which is more fucked up. This is a little bit more normal because he's an adult being tortured. I guess that's what I'm saying. I'm glad Marvel didn't kill a kid. That's all I want to say.
That's noble. Yeah.
Yeah, noble of them. It's a noble film. Miles, were you sad when Bucky Barnes fell off the cliff?
I mean, yeah. I think
or
that's
the train.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they fell off the train. I feel like that's. I mean, I knew it was coming. I knew he was going to play. You hear Bucky Barnes like, oh, I know all his stuff, but I feel like in this movie especially, you get. And I guess now that I think about it, all of the movies, it's kind of like about their relationship. So you see them grow up together, their relationship then, and then he loses his guy. He loses his man, and he's bringing all the men. I was sad to lose Bucky, but I think that it's unfortunate that with characters that are always so good, the only way to humanize them and make them more interesting is to give them bad shit. So like, this is one thing we needed for Steve. And I think we get a lot more of that in this movie and in the coming movies of like, we just got to give Steve bad shit and rough experiences to make him more relatable.
Yeah, truly. And honestly, for my money, it's pretty much stale to the end. Like, what more? Like, am I missing something? I'm ready to like hop to the end of this movie. Derek, am I missing something? Have I forgotten?
No.
Something?
I have to say, I felt the same way. I started like, because I watched it earlier today before we recorded, and I started taking notes. And about the time that they started fighting, I was like, I guess I don't really have any notes. This is just action for a bunch of the film. One note that I have for Bucky, though, is like, when you get to like the Civil War and like all these other things where they're like fighting and like Bucky is like his main thing. Since I hadn't seen this all the way through yet, I was like, oh, I'm sure there's a lot of Bucky backstory that I'm missing, or like a lot of good, like Cap and Bucky really being friends. And then I watched this and I went, wait, that's all we see of Bucky in this film? Like, why do we care about Bucky? Like, I didn't even know who he was when I watched Winter Soldier. And I was like, all right, I know this guy's his friend, but like, surely they have a a long backstory. And I'm sure if I had read a lot of the comics, I would be like, oh yeah, Bucky and Cap, but it seems like if this is where it starts, like there's probably not a lot of comics that are just Bucky and Steve Rogers being kids together. So
right.
It's like, there's a lot of things in Civil War that I'm like, you're doing all of this because of this guy that you knew for a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, I think when you think about it too, like in this movie, when after he's Captain America and he's working with Bucky, he also has like a crew of other dudes that we don't know. So like,
yeah.
I didn't think about that either. That like, even when he is working with Bucky, you don't realize that he's like would be an important person to Cap. That's interesting.
Yeah. Because there's like, why is Bucky special when he's got all these dudes?
Yeah.
Okay. We head into our final act. Red Skull is, man, he's ready to reign. He's ready to take everyone's nose in New York City. He's like, I'm coming for the noses. I just had this thought today as you were talking, Derek, but do you think that because the Red Skull put in the super soldier serum, that his sense of smell was so strong that his nose exploded, essentially?
That could be. I hadn't thought about it that way, but
I can't think of anything else.
like the Tooch said, the serum, amplifies what's already inside of someone. So if he had a good sense of smell, I think that we would need to know what Schmidt was like before this to really know if he had a good smell ahead of time. Because if he did, then I think that leads a lot of credence to your theory that maybe the nose is not there because it was too strong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm. Fascinating.
Or potentially he had a bad sense of smell and it shrunk because it was too bad.
It's too bad. Ooh. He's like, I don't need this.
Yeah. You already don't have this, and it exemplifies the not having this.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. 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 Exemplifies, exactly. I think at this point I'd like to institute an acting challenge for my guests. I think it's at that time where the Red Skull is preparing to attack and come for our noses and our beloved city, New York, that the whole world has to care about, apparently. So the line read I want in your best Red Skull German accent is, if they cut off one head, two more shall rise. And, feel free to interpret that line how you will, drop lines, add lines, whatever you want to do. I will go last, of course, because I don't want to embarrass anybody with my skills. Miles Potter, you are a actor by trade. So please, if you would do us the honor of going first.
If you cut off one head, two more shall rise. Red Skull.
Yes. Ooh, I felt it, especially when you said Red Skull. I was like, who is this again? And then you said Red Skull. And I was like, oh, yeah.
I appreciate when people say their names in movies, and I feel like it didn't happen enough.
It did not.
Steve.
Yeah. I like when you say Steve. Going over Derek Cox, known impressionist, kind of iconically known for it. Your Gilda Radner is incredible, but that's not what we're here. I don't want to hear that today. I would love to hear your impression of the Red Skull saying the Hydra catchphrase.
If you cut off my nose, no one will have noses. That's Russian. I don't know. Red Skull. Oh, I forgot to say Red Skull. Red Skull.
Yeah.
Red Skull. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can do German, but I can't do Hugo Weaving.
Yeah.
Don't try to correct it. What came out was right.
Oh, thank you. I don't need to correct it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're fine.
That's what I meant to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is there a Lord of the Rings line we could just say over and over to get him or Mr. Anderson? No.
Mr. Anderson.
We can all do that accent. That generic. All right. Shall I go?
Yeah, I would love to hear.
Yeah. Please.
Okay, this is my German accent, so just know that. If they cut off the head of one of us, two more shall rise, and we'll have some chocolates. Thank you very much.
Oh,
man.
Miles,
that was like a young German boy ready to go to the chocolate store.
Yeah, that was more my Augustus Gloop. Papa, the Red Skull is feeding.
Look, if you cut off one head, 2 more. Can we have it, please?
Yeah. The only way I could do a German accent is as a German child. That's just the way it is. Where's my Lederhosen? All right. Honestly, more fun than this third act. Very nice job, everybody. And so, yeah, we just watch a bunch of shit blow up. I mean, I'm ready. I'm honestly ready to just cut to the dance, to the date line. Is that crazy?
That's fine.
We get some fucking moment with the Tesseract, and it like shows Hugo weaving or the Red Skull space, which again is cool, knowing that, you know, after seeing Endgame, that's where the Red Skull is transported. He's now the guardian of the Soul Stone. Sucks to be him. Man, you like the Red Skull. I didn't realize this would be a Red Skull podcast, but I feel like that's where my energy is going. I feel like I didn't say anything about Peggy Carter, and there's so many Peggy Carter fans. I'm so sorry. But Red Skull, you already tried a super soldier serum. Why did you go for an Infinity Stone as well? It's just not going to work out. You know, it's like, stop trying to make fetch happen, Red Skull. It's not going to happen.
He just knew it as the Tesseract, though. He didn't necessarily know that it was an Infinity Stone at that point, did he? And is this is this the only time that we see the Space Stone's power? Do we see it other times? I guess we see it when Loki steals it.
Yeah, because Loki uses it to open up that portal, which brings in the aliens and Avengers, and then Thanos uses it to kind of like just jettison all around the universe.
I got a lot of stuff to rewatch. It sounds like.
Sounds like it, Derek.
Yeah.
And also I was gonna say Tesseract, more like TesserWHACK. They are dying, audience. They cannot believe he's taken 3 weeks off of podcasting and he's still this funny.
Boo! Boo!
Did you say moo or boo?
Sure.
He said, "You. We want more Damon."
You.
Well, I'm gonna move on over to Miles Potter. Miles Potter, have you ever been in the situation where like you were asking a girl out on a date, but you were about to crash land a plane into an iceberg? Has this ever happened to you?
You know, I've been in situations similar or that felt like it, where, you know, as a teenage boy, which I will be forever, you feel like you're taking on the world while like, and asking a girl on a date is, I don't know if I've ever asked a girl on a date. Have I? How do you do that?
I hate this.
Girls?
Well, yeah, but well, no, actually, I love women, but I would never ask a woman out on a date. Whatever. Continue, Miles.
It's a whole lot, and I think it's terrifying. And I think Steve, in the same way, is like a little boy, naive from Brooklyn, something like that.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a feeling that's the scariest part about all of it for him. He's landing a plane. I think he's always been that little good boy fighter boy.
Good boy.
Call him a twerp.
Yeah, he's always been the little fighter twerp. And I think he knows what to do. Like, fight, just keep fighting. That's what I am. I'm a soldier. That like asking a girl out. Because he was always like little twerp boy. Was he as little twerp boy? Did he ever ask out someone on a date? I doubt it. I doubt it.
He's so twerpy. But
yeah.
So we get this moment, and it's again retroactively fantastic because we end up seeing the dance, you know, at the end of Endgame. Hooray. But I don't know. This is just so like, we've got to dance, Steve. Don't be late for our date. I'm Peggy Carter. I don't know. Derek Cox, am I heartless?
Yeah. No, I see.
Confirmed.
I think I see. This is definitely a moment because, you know, when these movies were first coming out, they were very much like, I mean, these characters were people who read comic books knew these characters well, and so I think that some of these moments are especially for them, for people who knew all of the backstory of this beforehand. And I think that moment, knowing, you know, we know now, and they knew that this was the last time that they would ever see each other. So I think that this sort of like sappy moment sort of plays better for people who have known these characters for more than an hour, 45 minutes or whatever. But I think it's if you've bought into the earnestness by that point, that's like a really earnest moment. These two people being like, oh, let's dance. It's because it's so sweet. It's not like, let's get together. It's like, let's maybe start a relationship when you get back.
Let's casually try this out.
Yeah.
Doesn't work. Crash. Sad. Howard Stark, who we didn't even talk about, and I'm fine, but Howard Stark gets the Tesseract. It's in S.H.I.E.L.D. custody, which we'll see the Tesseract. I feel like it's in every fucking movie. Steve Rogers wakes up. This woman who I think is unnecessarily sexily dressed. What are we doing here?
I think it's just in case, he wakes up from this. Is it 40 years, 50 years, 60 years? However many years he's been on ice.
Yeah.
Just in case it's just in case.
Just the way she comes in, like, hello, Steve. Hello, Captain Rogers. Yeah. It just feels like she should be followed by that kind of sound.
Just in case she needs to take one for the team.
Yeah.
We don't know,
like
what 60, Rabbit. 70 years is going to do.
Yeah. This is a lovely moment. He realizes the radio they're playing is a game he was actually at. So he's like, something's wrong. Bursts through the set. If you're a fan of Scandal, season 4, the same thing happened to Kerry Washington. I swear to God, this exact thing happened. Sorry.
Come on.
This exact thing happened on Scandal.
Oh my God.
And it was crazy.
Episodes away. No, I'm kidding.
But he gets out, runs to modern day Times Square. Nick Fury shows up. And again, this is all set up for Avengers. I feel like this movie doesn't end. Like, there's no... I think that's also my thing. There's no resolution. I felt like we didn't really bookend where we started, It just kind of is like, here's a series of events, and now we're in now we're in 2012. And that's how I feel about the movie. I feel like it's an unfinished but delightful thing to look back on.
Yeah. I think we need. I mean, the only reason this movie is here is because we need Steve to be part of the Avengers. We need him now. So, like, I feel like this was a chess move by Marvel of like, we gotta make this movie. It's gotta be this. We just gotta build. We've got to build this new piece, Steve. So that's why we have it. So it's gonna feel unresolved because the resolution in Marvel's mind is like, we just need Steve. Once we have him, we're done.
Once we have Steve, we're Steve.
What I really liked that you said about that. My favorite part that you said was that you said Steve.
Why did I allow you to say that? I knew that you were going to do.
Me too.
I know. Thank you.
Producer Michael, if you have time, let's get a tally count on how many times Miles has said Steve. That is the end of Captain America, the First Avenger, but this is not the end of a podcast because it is time for our favorite segment of This Week and Every Week. The weekly Fuck, Marry, Kill.
Oh. Once a year. I feel special now that we do this only once a year.
Oh, you lucked out, baby. So, on the docket for this Fuck, Marry, Kill, we got the titular Captain America, sidekick Bucky Barnes, and love interest who really got little coverage on this episode. I'm sorry, but Peggy Carter, she's in play. Fuck, Marry, Kill. I will go first to give my guests time to think about their choices. Oh boy. Sorry, fans. I'm killing Captain America.
Ooh.
I foresee me picking him for other things in other movies, but for this one, he's just a little too earnest. He's a little too concerned whether Howard Stark and Peggy Carter are fonduing it. Do you fondue? He's too twerpy. Even when he's muscular, he's too twerpy. The hair's floppy. It's not working for me. And no to Steve Rogers today. So I will kill him. I think I'll reverse the super soldier serum, make him a shrimp again, and then I'll punt him into the Hudson River. I bet you he can't. I bet you he can't swim. I bet you he can't swim.
Do we have to say how they die?
Oh, you can if you want to. I'm just theatrical that way. Okay. My fuck will be Peggy Carter. We're not going to have fun, but I think we'll get it done. We're going to get the thing done. I respect her. And honestly, there was one part in the movie where she shot a guy driving away in a car with one shot. And that was kind of sexy. So I'm going to give it up for Peggy. And then I'm going to marry sweet Bucky Barnes.
Really?
Yeah. I know what the future holds for him, and I want to protect him from that. I love how Sebastian Stan looks. And Bucky seems like a sweet guy. I like his swagger. He seems cool as fuck. And I'm like, I can marry that. Do I want to? I don't know. We might get divorced, but I'm going to give it a try. Those are my answers. Let's go to Derek Cox. Please, who are your picks?
I think going back to the fully oiled Cap coming out of the tube, his super serum tube, just as he's coming out fully oiled, I think that's the moment.
To what?
To fuck him.
Okay.
Fuck Cap. And then I would go.
You would launch?
What?
You would just launch at him?
Yeah. Fucking oiled Cap.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Peggy almost did, as you mentioned. She was inches away from hopping on Cap. But then I think for me, the Mary is Peggy Carter. Years down the line, I've already killed Thanos, and I come back. I've taken them, the Infinity Stones back to their rightful places in the timeline, and then Peggy and I get together, and I show up as an old man to tell him I'm not going to help him anymore.
So by killing Cap, you become Cap?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think that's no.
Oh, he's fucking Cap.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Damon's the one killing him. He's punting him.
Oh, that's right. So by fucking him, you become him, and
I steal his powers.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Great.
You become
from touch.
And then who's your kill, Derek?
Well, I got to kill Bucky Barnes, mostly because I still don't know what his deal is. I like Sebastian Stan so much. I like Bucky, and I don't know. He's someone who's like grown on me, but also someone that I'm like, I don't know what your deal is. Like, why is this guy still around? Especially since he's such a bad guy in the interim. And then we're like, but he was hypnotized or, under. I don't know. I see no reason for Bucky other than, he was a great wingman for Steve, even though Steve didn't appreciate it. But yeah, let's kill him.
Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? Anyway,
that's true. I might miss Bucky if he was gone.
Yeah.
Miles Potter, who are your picks?
I think that not the only thing, but I think of the three, the best fuck would be Bucky Barnes. I think Bucky is that
You'll call him Becky.
I think Becky is the best fuck. So I would fuck Becky. So yeah, just because I think it would be fun, it'd be dark. He's got some mystery to him, but I don't have to get into it. It's just used for the night. Man, and then I wanna. And who do I want to marry? Who do I want to kill?
Indeed.
I think
you're breaking up a happy couple.
I think the better marriage would be Peggy Carter. I think she's more interesting, more competent. I think I would enjoy my time with her more. I wish there was a choice to I want to be best friends with Steve. I feel like he's super reliable. I want him there. He'd be a great friend.
That's not the game we're playing, Miles.
I know. So unfortunately, I would discard Steve. Pre-oil, and
right?
Yeah,
it'd be harder to do it post-oil.
yeah. It's harder to discard anything when it's oiled.
Yeah,
true. Too slippery.
So,
yeah. You don't know what your local ordinances are on oil disposal and all of that. So
yeah. It's more logistically difficult to discard when oiled.
Yes.
Well, beautiful. What a slippery end to a Captain America conversation. Miles, you are I'm glad, man. Miles is loving everything I'm saying today. Miles, let us know, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me on Instagram at THEE Moss King, the Moss King. I don't do a lot of stuff on there, but I sometimes post about shows. So yeah.
Yeah. Give him a follow. How about you, Derek Cox? Where can the folks find you?
You can find me on Instagram at DGCox, COX, DGCOX. You can find me at polymyth.com, POLYMYTH.com. And then if you want to see me modeling and being the face of a company, you can go to mysterytacklebox.com or shopcarls.com.
Wow. And you haven't done a podcast before, and you've got all that?
No, I don't know if I'm technically allowed to do a podcast, but I'm here.
All right. Well, we'll know if we get taken down. I'm Damon Royster. You can follow this podcast on Twitter at podcast616 P3. Man, really got to post some things on there. It's been a while. But you can also follow me on Instagram at Dayman Royster, DaymanRoyster. It's Dayman Royster 88 on Twitter. That's all I'm going to say now. Producer Michael, also thank you to Press Play Productions for having us. Producer Michael, if you want to hop on the mic real quick, what letter grade would you give this podcast? How did we do?
I'll give you guys an A. This is great.
Oh,
hell yeah.
Thank you.
Pretty good.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Miles. Thank you, Derek. And thank you, listener. This is Podcast 616. We'll be back with more Captain America coverage. And until that time, don't forget that with great power comes even greater responsibility.